before we move on, we have a out-of-town guest here. As people know, KPFA is part of a national network of 5 stations, and Mitchell Cohen, the chair of the WBAI board, is here. Mitchell's back there in the striped shirt, and so if you want to hear what's going on in New York, maybe you can talk to him after the meeting. Thank you.
So now we should get started with the debate section. So the way we're thinking about doing this is that each slate gets the chance to ask one question to the other slates, and you can choose which slate you want to ask the question to, and then everybody on that slate would get the chance to respond if they want to. If not everybody wants to answer, that's fine. They can choose one person to answer that question, but we do encourage that everybody gets everybody to answer.
Okay, so I really liked what Tracy said earlier about people who were sitting on their butts basically and approving of budgets that are probably too much than the station can bear, and not doing anything about this. It's my understanding that in the 2008 budget, when there was a need for dramatic cuts to the station for the station to be viable, the concerned listener slate approved or proposed budgets that were still full throttle and not with the budget cuts that were called for by the treasurer. But my question is to the Independents for Community Radio. I understand that they voted along with the concerned listeners on the budget. Is this correct? And if so, why is that?
Okay, so on the 2008 budget, it was of course prepared by the KPFA staff and management, as is always the case, and then was brought to the board by the board treasurer, Brian Edwards-Tiekert, at that time. The budget that we were presented with called for, in order to be balanced, $300,000 in reductions. Those reductions were described as unspecified reductions in payroll expenses, and that was how the budget was balanced. In other words, that would be why we would not operate at a deficit, because these reductions would be carried out. Since you're asking, it was a year and a half ago, so I cannot speak for all of my colleagues on Independents for Community Radio. I'd have to go back to the minutes to be 100% precise, but my recollection is that each and every member of the then minority contingent on the board abstained on the budget vote. We did that because we really didn't understand the intent of the budget or feel that it was expressed clearly exactly how it was to be balanced and whether those actions or decisions would be positive for the station or negative for the station. One member of our group chose to vote no. That was, I think, Shahram Agamir, who is a staff representative. He was the only negative vote on the budget, as I recall. It was voted for unanimously by the concerned listeners, save KPFA folks. Those budget cuts were not carried out 2009. Same time of year, July, August, we were brought a budget, again, prepared by KPFA staff and management and brought to us by the LSB treasurer, Brian Edwards-Tiekert. It said, this time, we will balance the budget with $425,000 in unspecified staff reductions. There had to be more because you hadn't done them the previous year. Once again, having fallen for that stuff last year, in 2009, I believe Independents for Community Radio voted 100% against that budget. In that year, October 1, 2008 to October 1, 2009, KPFA ended up running a $652,000 deficit on audit. This year, we're not doing a whole lot better. In terms of what Mr. Hallinan said earlier, I don't really appreciate inaccuracies, so I want to say very clearly that it was the intent of the Pacifica National Board. I am a member of the Pacifica National Board, and I know this, that budgets be followed. Management presented an implementation plan for the budget that included the total elimination of 2 programs in their entirety. Those 2 programs were Flashpoints and Hard Knock Radio. that implementation plan was indeed not approved by the Pacifica National Board. No other implementation plan was proposed. That's what happened. Let's tell the truth.
I just wanted to say something about the budget process in general. It is the responsibility of the LSB to approve a budget. However, the budget process in the past has been just a quick one-way kind of thing where it's presented to the board and there's not much time to review it. And so I and other ICR candidates, I believe, would advocate for a better budgeting process.